We're hosting former Attorney General and Public Service CS Justin Muturi. Just before the break, we spent some time trying to understand the abductions. His son was abducted. He tried to access information, trying to understand, by Nordin Haji, no less, trying to understand what was happening, trying to get to the bottom of it. And he says, while standing right next to President William Ruto, he made a call, and after that, his son was freed, I believe. And the question I asked before the break is, after going through something so traumatic and tumultuous, why then stay in office? To what end? And maybe we'll start there. Why stay after all of that?
Good question. Thank you, Janet. I went through a lot of soul searching. And at a point asked, is it worth it? And after consulting a number of close friends, many advise that please stay put. Maybe there's a lot more you could be able to gather about what your administration is doing, and at an appropriate time, let the world know. And therefore, somebody would really have it. When the cabinet was dissolved on 11th of July, I remember the president farboard. If you remember his statement, he even was talking about the Attorney General of the cabinet. I called him, asked him, boss, what is wrong with you? There's no Attorney General of the cabinet. It's the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya. And I told him, you cannot dismiss the Attorney General under Section 12 of the Office of the Attorney General Act without setting up a tribunal, because if you read that section, it puts 5 grounds, and grounds can only be established through a semi or quasi-judicial process, namely a tribunal. In fact, now that the other day, and I have I have a lot of respect for my Muslim brothers and sisters, but I thought the way he said it the other day at the iftar dinner, it was so casual. In fact, I began wondering, do we have a...
When you're talking about endowment funds?
Yes. Okay. There is no Muslim, nothing like that called the Muslim Endowment Fund in the first instance. So it means that he did not consult anybody. He just rose up and spoke just like the way he's doing on top of vehicles, saying anything that...
I want to come back and say, okay, so you say that you sought counsel and you were encouraged to stay, and that by staying you'd be able to uncover. But is that really in the spirit of the interest of Kenyans? Because one might argue that would have been the right time to say, this is a broken system. I mean, everything you've just described, having to make several calls on an individual level for an issue that has affected hundreds of people, already it's a broken system. Why stay within there as opposed to saying, I'm stepping out because my integrity cannot let me stay within a system that's not serving the people of Kenya? It almost sounds like staying to uncover something it's a personal vendetta. And that supersedes, if a personal vendetta supersedes the interest of Kenyans, then that's also frightening. So why didn't you choose the route of saying, this is wrong, I don't believe that this government is running effectively and transparently, and I'm now going to step down?
I don't think whether one can describe it as vendetta. I did not have any vendetta against anybody. And to find out what exactly the problem is or had been, it was necessary at the time from close advice, which I considered and took. It was necessary that as long as it suited.
Were you not privy to abductions and extrajudicial killings before the abduction of your son? Because again, these are not things that are new to us. These are things that have happened in previous administrations, in the current administration. So are you saying that this was the first time that you came across genuinely, from someone who sat on the National Security Council, this was the first time you came across an abduction when it was your son?
No. But see, it must be understood that the docket that deals with criminal matters is not in the, it does not reside with the Office of the Attorney General. and that anything to do with criminality would be reported, even at cabinet level, even at the National Security Council level, would be reported through the CS Interior. But it had never been reported, other than discussing generally the events surrounding the.
But you are privy to.
Yeah. So if you're discussing that and you're in the national.
When you say privy, I'm a bit hesitant to respond, because privy, I don't know, maybe you could look at the exact meaning, knowing that there were abductions. Maybe perhaps you could, that would be a better one.
So you knew that there were abductions?
Of course. It was public knowledge.
By the government? Security agencies?
Let me say this. It was never stated that it was by security agencies. In fact, other than the usual, political statements that we used to make during the campaigns, nobody ever disclosed that it was being done by the security agencies.
Not during campaigns, at the National Security Council level, at those high-level government.
Nothing like that was ever raised. And other than recently, on that 31st, when the president himself disclosed to the nation and the world that he knew of a police squad that had been previously involved in the killings and dumping of bodies in River Yala and the river, he himself, which he said he disbanded.